Hello everybody, welcome back to Piano Practice Partner. I hope you've had a great week and have been enjoying the lessons so far. Last week we looked at added 7th and 9th chords. Let's just refresh our memory as to what we went through. So we took our C major scale as our basis to try and understand what was going on, as we know and love this scale very well by now, all white notes. And we took our C major chord, which was made up of the 1st, the 3rd and the 5th. And we learned very simply that an added 7th meant adding the 7th note of that scale. So if this was the 1, this was the 3, this was the 5 to make up the major triad. The 7th would be the 7th note, which in this case is the B. And we understood that to be true for the added 9th. So if this is our 8 here, our 9th would be one above, essentially a 2, but an octave higher. So we had our added 7ths and our added 9ths. Quite easy to get our heads around, right? But we expanded upon this because what I'm playing now, this hand positioning, is not the most ergonomic. So we took what we'd done in a previous lesson, which was inversions, and we applied it to this. So instead of playing the root in our right hand, this C, we let our left hand take care of that, which meant we could bump our hand up and play an inversion of C, and then add the 7th here, and the 9th. So we're playing the 1 in our left hand, the 3, the 5, the 7, and the 9 in our right. Beautiful. And then we did the same for the D. We took it from its sort of primary position where we're playing only the 7th, and then we did the inversion, so we can add the 9th. And we did the same for the 5, so we took the initial position, and then we did the inversion, so we can add the 9th. And that led us to playing the 2-5-1. How exciting. We've taken so many concepts from the previous lessons. So we've taken the lesson on inversions, we've taken the lesson on 2-5-1s, and then added the 7ths and 9ths from the previous lesson and combined them all. If you remember our lesson on 2-5-1s when we first started playing, we were just playing this in the most basic form, the triad, cycling between the 2, the 5 and the 1, but adding the 7th. How much richer that sounds already. And then if we take what we did last time with the inversion, so we can add the 7th and the 9th, it sounds like this all of a sudden. You can hear how much fuller and richer and more complexity that has to it already. So I hope you feel proud of yourselves for having come so far in such a short space of time. It sounds really cool to go from that to that and understand exactly what's going on. All we're doing is we're taking that triad, this minor triad in this case, doing an inversion to leave our fingers free to add the 7th and the 9th and know how to figure out the 7th and the 9th. Really, really cool. We also figured out an application for this inversion with the added 9th and 7th. As we're playing, it sounds a hell of a lot like Sunday Morning by Maroon 5. So that's what we're going to learn today. We're going to learn our second song, which is really, really cool. This is going to be a great, great song for us to practice because it helps take care of something else we've spoken about previously. With inversions, not only does it help our hand not jump around so much, so that we're arranging our fingers that they're only having to move sort of a note or two down rather than an entire hand placement. Inversions help bring variation to what could be quite a repetitive sequence. This is super, super true of this song because it is the 2-5-1 throughout the entire 4 minutes with the occasional deviation, but for 4 minutes it's essentially this. So after 4 minutes, I mean even after 4 seconds of me playing this right now, are your ears bored? Mine are getting there. So we're going to get used to playing the 2-5-1 in its root position, but also the inversions. Because then if we switch back from an inversion like this to the root position, suddenly it doesn't sound so boring anymore, does it? So we've given ourselves a little break, a little bit of variation to latch onto before returning to the form. So let's just go through a few of the variations right now just so we can refresh those in our memory. So obviously we have our root position with our added seventh here for the D, for the G, and for the C. And just to spell that out, that is the first, the third, the fifth, and the seventh. So D, F, A, C, with the D in the bass. And then for the G, again, 1, 3, 5, 7. But it is the G, the B, the D, and the F with the G in the bass. And then the C. So the C, D, G, B with C in the bass. So that's our sort of root position, we'll call it, with an added seventh in our pinky finger. And then in our last lesson, we looked at taking the thumb out of the right hand and shifting everything up a bit. And so instead of playing the 1, 3, 5, 7, it would play the 3, 5, 7, and the 9. So that is one of the variations we're playing. So D in the bass on the left hand, and on the right hand we're playing F, A, C, and E. And then for our 5 chord, the G in the bass, we're playing the B, D, F, A. And then for the 1 chord, C in the bass, and then it's E, G, B, D. So all together, that sounds like this. So there, very quickly, we've got 2 variations. We've got our root positions with our 7th, and then the 7th and the 9th. Great. On that inversion, you'll notice that the jump from the D here to the G down to the C is quite big. So we then started looking at more inversions. So we figured out that from this inversion of the D chord with the 7th and the 9th, we wrote down the notes, and then we looked at what were the shared notes for the G and what were the differing notes. We looked at the notes and we figured out that these 2 notes are shared with the G and these 2 notes are not. So all we had to do was to keep these 2 exactly the same, but move these 2. So we moved the C down to the B, and we moved the E down to the D. So that looks like this. Really simple. So that goes with the root and the bass. And then from here, we realized to get to the C, we just needed to move these 2 notes down now. So the A here would become a G, and the F here would become an E. So that looks like this. Magic. So all together, that looks like this. Then top 2 notes move down, then bottom 2 notes move down. So altogether, that's 3 variations now. Let's play them through. Our root position with the 7th, our inversion with the 7th and 9th, and now our inversion of D with the notes moving down. I'll play that one more time. Excellent. So much variation at our disposal already. There's another one which we didn't look at last time, but I think might be useful to learn. So in the same manner as this inversion up here, moving the 2 down and then the bottom 2 down, we can do the same when we come to play our root position with the 7th. Rather than playing D here and then jumping up to the G and down to the C, we can take that same principle of moving these top 2 fingers down. And then when we get to the C, moving these 2 fingers down. Now, I haven't quite figured out if this is a hard and fast rule for everything, but for now, it's super, super useful. So let me do some investigation as to why that might be the case, and if it can be applied anywhere else. But for now, that's so useful to go, okay, I just need to move top 2 fingers down, and then when I move to my C, bottom 2 fingers down. So we have loads at our disposal. This is amazing. So let's get into the song. I'm going to bring this here because there are a few things that happen within the basic structure of the song. So it's just the 2-5-1, as we've said. And there's a bit of funk and groove to it. We can try playing for now. Instead of playing quite straight, what we would call straight, so on the beat. So if we had a metronome saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice I'm playing every chord on the downbeat. So every time I say 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That's not bad. It's good that we're playing in rhythm and in time. But actually, if you listen to the song, they are doing what's known as pushes. So they push slightly ahead of the beats. And so rather than playing 1, 2, 3, 4, if you think about anticipating it, it goes and 1, and 2, and 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. There's another thing we can do to try and precipitate that feeling of that push. In the last practice along session, for the last video, we broke up the chords in our session. So we could hear exactly what was going on. It was really beautiful. We're going to try and do something similar here. So what we could do is we could play the D in our left hand, followed by the D in our right hand, and then the rest of the chord afterwards. So that sounds something like this. So we're staggering it. Ba-do-ga. I don't know how to better describe it than that, but you get what I mean. Ba-do-ga. And then up to the G. Do-do-ga. Ba-do-ga. Repeat. Now, obviously, the song in reality is a lot faster than that. It's like ba-do-ga, 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 ba-do-ga. But I don't think I'm quite there yet. That's a very new sensation for me, so it's quite tricky to get that boom, ba. But we'll get there, and it's about practice and repetition, but keep nice and loose while you're doing it. You don't want to breathe in too much tension, as I think I'm doing there. I'm sort of slamming my hand down. Keep nice and relaxed to play that root note, followed by the chord. That's one thing we could do. So already that sounds nice and cool and funky, right? So that's one thing. So aside from the rhythm, one of the other things to note is this section here. So within the intro, you get this. And it happens a few times. I'm not being super accurate as to when this happens. It's in the intro. If you want to listen to the song and make a carbon copy of it, then go ahead, be my guest. But I think this is more for us just learning some of the principles and applying them rather than being a Maroon 5 tribute band, as amazing as that would be. So you get this little run that happens occasionally in the intro, which just goes A, G, E, C. So that sounds something like this. And this is really actually quite useful for us to practice because we haven't really played melody on top of chords yet. We did play within the last practice along session, so if you haven't checked that out, go ahead and do that. We were playing the chord and then playing melody within that. To add some movement and some melody, but it was within the chord we were already playing, so we didn't have to worry about jumping around. This, as simple as that run may be, requires us to take our hand away from the chords that we're playing and then back to the chords. So it's a bit of a challenge, and you'll notice that in my playing just then, I took it nice and slow. There's no rush to be going straight up here. Also, you'll notice that I didn't do the staggered chord. So taking it nice and simple, nice and slow, playing the chord in its root position with the 7th, looking up, and then back down to the 2-5-1. And actually, if you arrange your hand so it's pinky, ring, index, thumb, means that everything can just fall down quite nicely from there, rather than thinking that note, across that note. Don't get more complicated than it needs to be. Let's ignore this bit for now. I know you're curious as to what it is, but that's not needed. So the intro goes around the 2-5-1 twice, and between each one you get that boom, 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 boom. And then we're just into a verse of 2-5-1. And guess what? When we get to the chorus, it is the same. And so there's a lot of bars to fill. So this is where we're going to practice our variations. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to demonstrate. I'll play the verse and then the chorus. I won't sing. I don't really sing. Also, it's really early in the morning where I am. So my voice is quite, as you probably tell, husky and deep. But I'm just going to play some variations that we've been discussing whilst moving through that, so you can see and hear how it may sound and how you may want to construct it yourself with the variations that you like. So let's go. I'll start, obviously, in our root position. At the 7th. And I'll do one of the inversions with the 9th. I'm going to do a variation on that. That's moving the top fingers down and then bottom fingers. I'll do that one again. I'll do the variation on the root position, moving the top and bottom fingers down. There may be all I see. There we go. There's some variations with some bad humming and singing. You can hear though, right, can't you? It's the same chord repeated over and over and over again, but by using these variations, by using these inversions, it helps just bring a bit of movement and life to it and keep it driving forward. We don't get bored. So you can really hear that, I think. The other thing you would have heard during that was my squeaky sustain pedal. Goodness. And that's actually something we haven't spoken about. It seems as this is a beginner practice channel and we're learning together. We haven't spoken about this tool down here. You've probably got one yourself and have probably already figured it out, but basically if you play a note, it doesn't sustain. Once you let go of it, it stops playing, but if you can hold the note, it'll keep going. And this pedal just does that for you. So instead of holding your finger down, if I push this down now, the note will sustain until I take my foot off it. You probably already know that, but I just realized maybe it's good to say in case you're like, how is that note sustaining? Also, what's that squeaking noise? It's that, and it's really annoying. Maybe at some point in the future, I shall buy a new one. So there you go. That was the verse and the chorus. Now, what's this bit? So between the chorus and verse 2, instead of going straight into the next section, which would just be the 2-5-1 again, they do bring a bit of difference to the structure. And it's very simple. All that happens is we play the C and the E, and then we take half a step down to the B and the D sharp, and half step back up to where we started. And then he does that, oh yeah, 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 or whatever. So I'll play that from the last 2-5-1, so where he goes, and I don't ever want to leave in the chorus, into this, and then it picks it back into the 2-5-1. So all it does is simple. Just these two notes. But it's nice because we're getting to play some more melody type stuff, which we haven't done before. So as well as the opening section, we've also got this. And how I'm arranging my fingers there, these two. So your index and your ring. And then you can quite simply put your middle finger and your thumb on the next. Really easy. And we're back into our 2-5-1. So that is the bulk. That is the bulk of what we're doing. We're playing these variations on the 2-5-1, and this is a really great way to practice it. So I really encourage you just to go through and figure out all the variations, and that new one that we didn't look at last time, which was this one. But again, just taking the concept of bringing these top two fingers down, and then the bottom two fingers down. Adding this bit, adding this bit. There's one more section we have to look at, which is that breakdown, that riff section, which is like da 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 ba ba dum ba ba dum ba ba dum ba ba dum. Really cool, really funky. Now we haven't really done notation yet. We'll get to that in future lessons. So for now, we're just going to learn it by rote and by ear. And you've got the track, you can listen to it, and it's a really good exercise, actually, whilst we are at this stage, to listen and authentically listen to, okay, what do I hear from the original? How do I recreate that? What does it sound like? And trying to be really curious about that experiment and faithful to it, and then bring in your own interpretation. But it's really good to get our ears and fingers attuned and aligned with each other. Okay, so let's tackle this breakdown. Obviously, we don't know notation that well yet. We haven't really tackled that as a concept. So I've written it out just in these letters here, so we can make sense of it. Later down the line, we will get to notation properly, I promise. But for now, we know that the C equals the C, this E flat would be the E flat, so on and so forth. Let's take it step by step. Basically, I've laid it out as such that where the commas are have little punctuations, so they're grouped together. I'll play them. Hopefully it'll make more sense than actually it's written, as this is a very rudimentary way whilst we're getting to grips with this. So we're going to play C to begin with. We're playing in unison, and if we haven't covered unison already, it means both hands are playing the same thing at the same time. So we're playing this in unison. So we're going to go C, E flat, E, B, B flat, and A. So together that sounds like C, E flat, E, B, B flat, A. I'm going to not speak that last bit because it goes too quick for me to say and play at the same time. So it sounds like this. So all together without me talking. Perfect. That's line 1 complete. Line 2 does this. So you'll notice from looking and listening for that section that we play this B, C, B, C, B, C, and the third note on each of these sections just moves down from the G to the F sharp to the F. So it's a little rundown chromatically. So together it sounds like this. Beautiful. And then our last little line goes F, G, and then this nice little turnaround. And we're back to the top. So we haven't really done anything like this before in terms of playing melody or lead lines. So it is a little tricky to get your hands around this. I'm struggling to get both in that unison feel. So what we're going to do in our practice is we're just going to play one hand at a time. So I'm going to start with my right hand and just drill this a few times. So So that seems fine. This second line, this run down where we have the repeating, it's a little hard to get that articulation for me. So I seem to be doing middle finger, ring finger, thumb, and repeating down. So it takes that little shift. And let's try it with the left hand. Sort of feels easier with my left there, especially with this little run, because my hands are arranged in such a way that it's quite easy to do that run down here because I have more fingers at my disposal. So when it's tricky doing something, take it nice and slow, break down the hands individually, one then the other, then let's add them back together. So let's try that again now that I've done it once with both hands correctly. Let's see if both combined can do what they're meant to. Sort of. Bit of a lag on the right hand right at the very end there. But I'll just spend some time now in my own practice away from the screens of YouTube, just really drilling that in and getting it nice and smooth. So that is our little run section. So there's one more thing to add on to the end. That riff plays as is written, and then the second time round we play it, but we only play it up to this F and G. And then instead of playing this last bit here, we play a C major chord. And then now, right at the very end of the lesson, we're going to learn a brand new chord. We're going to learn C sharp diminished. And all we're doing for this is nice and easy. We'll go into what a diminished chord is in a future lesson. But for now, all we need to know is we're playing this C major chord, C, E, G, the first, third, and fifth. And instead of playing the C, we're just going to shift up half a note to this C sharp. So we are going to play the C major chord and then the C sharp diminished chord, and then we're back into our 2-5-1. So I'll play this through now as if it were the second time round. So we're not going to play this section, I'm going to come straight to here instead. Back into the 2-5-1. There we go. That is essentially the entire song. So we do our intro where we have our little melody going underneath it. Then we are playing all our variations of this beautiful 2-5-1. Feel free to embellish as you wish. And then we go into our chorus, which then moves after that into another verse, and then this breakdown section, which is really fun. Maybe sounds a bit too tinny up here. So in your practice, what happens if you just try down the octave? So we're playing it down here instead. Sounds better down there, right? Bit more boomph, bit more bass to it. So we're playing that riff, and then the second time round, we're moving to the C major chord, then the C sharp diminished chord, back into our 2-5-1. Nice, beautiful twinkly ending there. That's it. We've learned another song, our second song on this channel, and it's another banger. So we've gone from the Beatles to Maroon 5. Who knows where we're going to end up next? We've also understood the theory of why we're playing the 2-5-1s and the variations within that, and how to add the sevenths and the ninths. That's all very exciting. I know we haven't covered every bit of theory, so we haven't covered what a diminished chord is. We'll cover that in a future lesson. We'll also cover at some point notation and the staves, and actually use this whiteboard as it was intended by writing the notes in the staves to tell us what that note is. We'll cover all of this and more in future lessons, and hopefully in a future lesson, if I ever get this channel monetized, I'll buy a new sustain pedal, one that doesn't squeak so much. So if you aren't subscribed and are enjoying these lessons, then please consider hitting that button, and yeah, drop us a comment, let us know how you're getting on. It's been really nice seeing your comments recently, and I will see you on the next lesson / practice along on Piano Practice Partner.